Dr. Anita Borges' family, we'd like to thank all of you for being here today as we celebrate and honor the life of an extraordinary woman. Dr. Anita Borges, or B, as we, her nieces and nephews, so affectionately called her, was truly one of a kind. Since her passing, we've been reading and receiving so many incredible messages and stories and tributes and newspaper articles that describe her as the queen of histopathology and the last word in oncopathology, a giant, a genius, a goddess, a legend, a pioneer, and a trailblazing icon. And to be honest, my first instinct was to pick up the phone and call her up and say, B, we knew you were famous and all, but not that famous. Like, it's a bit much. And I know how she would have responded too, with a, what rubbish, I tell you. Because that was who she was. She wore her greatness with grace and humility. And it didn't matter who you were or where you came from, whether you were a patient, a colleague, a student, family, or friend. She treated everyone with the same kindness and compassion, dignity, and respect. As Dr. Natarajan, her life partner, best friend, and companion of over 58 years, so beautifully put it, she was a stethoscope with a microscope, because she had the unique ability to see beyond what was right in front of her. A gentle yet firm giant who inspired, influenced, and left an indelible mark on the countless people whose lives she touched, so many of whom are here today. So I'd like to invite Dr. Mufaddal Muneem, a consultant histopathologist based at Charing Cross Hospital in London, who's come all the way from the UK to be with us today. He was one of Dr. Borges' best and most trusted students, and I request him to speak about his memories of Dr. Anita Borges.
Good morning. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today to address you at this event to celebrate the life of Dr. Anita Borges. I first encountered Dr. Borges before I knew who she was. So let me take you back 29 years. I was a fresh medical graduate who had come to visit Tata Memorial Hospital to fill out an application for postgraduate training. I was descending the central staircase in the old hospital, which wraps around a tiny little lift which the medical staff used to access various floors of the old hospital. And as one descends down this staircase, it gives a brilliant view into the lobby of the hospital, the portico beyond the open doors, and the veranda where the driveway is. And as I descended, I saw a car pull out and a tall, fair lady in a sari step out and start ascending the steps to the hospital. And as she ascended, the watchman at the gate stood up and greeted her. She entered the lobby, the security guards straightened up, the receptionist smiled. She acknowledged all of them gracefully, and then she proceeded along the lobby. The lobby was packed. However, people seemed to make a path for her, and she reached this little lift. And as she reached the lift watchman stood up, and lo and behold, the lift doors opened. She stepped in, and she was gone. All of this happened in about a minute, and it left me wondering who this lady with the awesome presence was. When I finally joined the department, I found out this was Dr. Anita Maria Borges. I think it would be very reasonable to say that she was one of the finest minds to have graced pathology, and even medicine in recent years. And that is a lucky thing for us, because I'm told that she originally wanted to do obstetrics and gynecology. So we in pathology are extremely grateful that she decided to take up pathology. She was a pan-cancer diagnostician extraordinaire, able to diagnose cancers of all types. And she had a slight advantage over there because she was there at the beginning of the cancer story. And so therefore, she could see how those stories developed or died. However, the rest of it was all due to natural talent, brilliance, and a deep understanding of her subject. She was able to look at tissue under the microscope and predict what else might be happening to the patient in distant organs, diseases that might occur subsequently. And these predictions of hers were not only uncanny, but sometimes verged on the miraculous. Now, most of these deductions, almost like a Sherlock Holmes with a microscope, were because of her deep understanding of medicine. However, some of the rationales were, how would you say, slightly more down to earth. I was sitting in the grossing room at Tata Memorial Hospital one day, evaluating a specimen of a radical vulvectomy, which had been done for a vulval cancer. And she came into the cut-up room, and she looked over my shoulder, looked at what I was doing for a couple of moments, looked at the specimen, and then said, "Ah, a Catholic lady." I was gobsmacked. So I looked at the name of the patient, and indeed there was a correlation, and then she breezed out. And I simply could not understand how she could look at a small part of the body which had been removed and not only try and predict the religion of the patient, but also what subsect of that religion that patient belonged to. So once I finished doing my work, I went down and looked at the hospital notes of the patient, and indeed she had been registered as a Catholic. So I went and hit the books to try and find out what it was that she had seen, which I was not aware of. You have to remember that we didn't have Google at that point in time. We couldn't put in, vulva and Christianity. So, and I got nowhere. It took me a lot of time to go through the textbooks. So I finally went back to her and asked her, "How did you know that patient was Catholic? You just looked at it and you said she was Catholic." She looked really amused. She smiled sheepishly at me and said, "Ah, Mufi, as I was coming up to the department that day, I bumped into the surgeon. He told me he had operated on her the whole day and it was a Catholic lady." La voila. The other thing about Dr. Borges was that she was always relevant. And she was always relevant in a rapidly evolving and rapidly changing medical landscape. And one of the reasons she was so relevant was because of the strong partnerships she forged with her surgical and oncology colleagues. And this allowed her a much better understanding of disease and an ability to provide information which was relevant irrespective of time. She's one of the few people who actually understood what they were talking about. Somebody who had the ability to communicate complex thought processes effectively, making the difficult and arcane seem effortlessly simple. And this clarity of thought has led to multiple publications and articles, and has culminated in her being the author or responsible editor of the 5th edition of the World Health Organization classification of tumors, which most of us use as a Bible in daily practice. She was a very hard worker. She approached her practice with complete integrity and commitment and worked very, very hard. She had a tireless attitude, boldly overcoming obstacles to continue her work on issues that mattered to her. Now, she was really, really dedicated, and she tried for years to get us to address her as Anita. But we'll come to more of that later. In terms of her impact, it would be no exaggeration to say that she, in the course of the 50 years of her career, she had diagnostic input into anywhere between 500,000 and 1 million patients, something that would take each of us several lifetimes to do. In terms of her impact as an educator, she had great success. Just consider this. In my department at Charing Cross Hospital in London, we have 5 pathologists who have been trained by her, 2 of whom she supervised their MD theses. Therefore, 10% of the workforce of a large central London hospital has been trained by Dr. Borges. Education was a passion, and she has been regarded as an exemplary teacher by generations of students. But she had a very, very different way of teaching. She didn't really teach me. She encouraged me to think, something that is invaluable and was sorely lacking from the Indian education system at that point and possibly even now. This unique ability in our situation of asking questions rather than providing answers to the student and stimulating the student to think about why something happens, how something happens, when something happens, allows them to move ahead on their own feet. Her idea of starting an online teaching program as a necessity of the COVID pandemic has turned out to be a brilliant success with the able support of Dr. Sumit Gujral. What started off as a bi-weekly evening online session to teach pathology postgraduates across India, inviting specialists to come and talk on a topic each evening where students could sit in the comfort of either their own departments or their own homes and learn, was fantastic. This eventually spread thanks to her contacts and influence, in the sense that she was able to invite experts on subjects and diseases from all over the world. So effectively, Indian students, even in remote locations, had access to the most novel ideas. This project now is subscribed by over 600 medical colleges in the Indian subcontinent. Countries attend it, and you can see how popular it is. Sometimes there are up to 1,600 students attending each session. That is dramatic impact. The practice of medicine is not a competition. So I do not refer to Dr. Borges as a champion in respect to the first definition on the screen. I refer to her as a champion of histopathology. It is well known that pathologists are not necessarily regarded in the same esteem as their surgical or medical colleagues. And Dr. Borges' viewpoint was that a good pathologist was worth their weight in gold, yes, even at today's rates, and was an equal, if not better partner to any medical relationship because of the crucial information pathologists could provide, which no other subspecialist could. Over her active career, she has instilled self-belief, confidence, and a recognition of self-worth into generations of histopathologists, thus improving the way the histopathology community looks at itself. Her viewpoint that histopathologists were not there simply to respond to the curiosity of other medical practitioners was best seen in her approach to frozen sections, where a frozen section was simply not done if the answer to it did not change intraoperative management. She was a compassionate human being who believed in doing the right thing. She either supported people in doing the right thing or through her own actions set an example for people to follow. As an individual, she was amazingly generous, not only for her time to her students, her patients, her colleagues, to members of staff, but also in sometimes providing financial assistance to members of staff who were in need. And I'm aware of several instances in which she has actively gone and paid for patients' treatments when they could not afford it. One of the things that has been constantly floated in the last week since her passing away is the fact that so many people remember that ma'am came to inaugurate their laboratories when they started their own practice. She took the time out from her busy schedule, went, inaugurated their practice, gave them her blessings, and then helped them subsequently to establish themselves, to set themselves up. I think most of us are aware that she had no patience with idiocy or foolishness of any kind. However, there was never any element of rancor or malice in her behavior to anybody. If I was going to sum it up in my words, I would say, all in all, she was a wonderful human being who, despite appearing formidable, had a very, very large heart. And for those of us who conquered our fears and approached her and interacted with her, the interaction left us richer in all aspects and significantly better than before. Another ability that Dr. Borges had was the ability to age gracefully. So the picture on the far left is courtesy Dr. Sanjay Pai. It's from 1992. The picture in the middle is from 2001, and you can see Dr. Borges there on the bottom left. And then there's that picture on the right from 2023, and if I may say so, she looks even lovelier in 2023. And not all of us have this ability to age so gracefully. Oops. You can see me there in the center. In 2001, I had a huge amount of hair at that point in time. Before I conclude, two things. On behalf of Professor Kikeri Naresh, who's currently in Seattle, and my many colleagues in London, including Dr. Rati Ramakrishnan, Dr. Sushna Mukhopadhyay, Dr. Priya Bhagwat, Dr. Saral Desai, Dr. Loli Das Gupta, and Dr. Ashutosh Nerurkar, I would like to extend their sincere and heartfelt condolences to Dr. Natarajan, the Borges and Natarajan families. On behalf of all of us who have been blessed with the opportunity to interact with her, I can say without reservation that she will be missed. But we will cherish and treasure the memories that we have been left with. On a more personal note, where did my journey with Dr. Borges take me in the last 3 years? Sorry, 3 decades. She stopped just being a teacher and a mentor for me, and she became, over time, a mother and a friend. There was a silent delight in seeing how I developed and matured, an active interest in my family. She used to call my son that Gunda Arshad. And I think she enjoyed seeing the flowers bloom in my garden in London, perhaps reminding her of the happy times that she had spent there when she was younger. So, goodbye, ma'am. Rest in peace. It would have been very easy for me to address you as Anita, as you had wanted and tried so hard for all these years. But I always thought ma'am suited you better. Thank you for being there, and I, in particular, will miss you tremendously. Thank you.
To say a few words. Thank you.
I really heard what her niece had to say at the beginning, and I'm sure the family, of course, being as close as they are, would have their own remembrances and their own reminiscences. I heard what her student from Charing Cross, London had to say, and Eric has asked me to speak today. And I would really be someone who would not be able to hold a candle to them, because I knew Anita very, very briefly for the last close to 2.5 to 3 years when I had taken over as the Chief Executive Officer of the Tata Trusts, and she was heading our Center for Oncopathology. I'm, however, thankful that relationships are never a function of time. I do realize, as I said, that there are people here who would have been associated with her for decades. While here I'm speaking about her with an association of 3 years, but I'm speaking about a friend and a wonderful human being. And friendship knows neither the boundaries of age nor the spectrum of time. It is two people, both of us, who are very straight talkers. And while I was in the bureaucracy for 27 years, and after that for 7 years at the Tatas, which are no less of a bureaucracy, so I can say that for 34 years I have cut the Gordian knots. And Anita was similarly so, apart from the fact that she was this brilliant pathologist, the educator, the humanitarian. She was also impatient. She wanted to get things done. And therefore, when she found me at the Tata Trusts, there was that immediate connect that we had. And we were, as I said, like two sharp shooters who wanted to come straight to the point. And that kindled an association between two like-minded souls. And I have some lovely messages that I have shared with her. And after one such meeting where, when she came into my room, she was agitated about many things which she thought were not happening in the manner that they should be, or at least with the speed which they should be. So after 1 hour of coffee with her and listening to her and telling her that this was going to be resolved in the next 48 hours, she messaged me saying, "Thank you for lending your ear. Always does the trick for me. I come away feeling I have accomplished so much. It is one of my eternal regrets that this association, which was just beginning, she had invited me many times over to visit the Center for Oncopathology, which had shifted recently from Wadala to Mahim. It was the new premises that they had moved into. She's very excited about that. And she wanted me to come there, and I, unfortunately, because of a packed schedule, was not able to make it. And that is a regret, as I said, I will always have. She had developed a Center for Oncopathology, which the Tata Trusts had created as part of our cancer initiatives. As most of you would know, that the Tata Trusts invested very heavily in cancer in Assam, in Chandrapur, in Ranchi, in Tirupati, and also in setting up this state-of-the-art Center for Oncopathology, which Anita so ably led. And therefore, to my Center of Oncopathology colleagues who would be sitting here in the room somewhere, I think the most fitting tribute to her would be that our team at the Tata Center for Oncopathology rededicates itself to all the causes that she held dear. And I can't forget that every time I would meet her and she would say, "Siddharth, I'm getting on in years. You need to look for a successor. You need to initiate that." And I, in my own style, would say, "Anita, you look like $1 million. Where is the question of you going anywhere for another 10 to 15 years? I profess the Hindu religion. And in that religion, we have a belief and a faith that at least once during 24 hours, the goddess Saraswati sits on your tongue. I wish she had sat on my tongue when I used to say that, and we would still have Anita here. I, of course, do realize that I'm talking to a gathering of doctors of all hues and kinds, belonging to different professions, and therefore it would be out of place for me to say this, but I would still say that from everything that I know, she was a legend in pathology, the definitive word when it came to oncopathology. Like everyone here who would probably have a million anecdotes to recite and recount, I know one personally which happened about a year earlier, when my first cousin, who was just about 35 years old, and her parents, my father's younger brother and his wife, they called up in hysteria, in a state of near panic, because this daughter of theirs, who was all of 35 years, at Lucknow had been so diagnosed with endometrial cancer, and they didn't know what to do. And the doctors at Lucknow said that if there could be Anita Borges who could look at the slides, etc., so they rang me up and said that, do you know anybody by the name of Anita Borges? So I called Anita immediately. And she said, Siddharth, have the slides sent over to me, but would you mind, can I have your cousin's number? So I said, yes, of course, Anita. And it's not only reflective of the doctor she was, but also of the human that she was. And I think that's the most important part. She took that number for me. In the next 5 minutes, she was on call with that 35-year-old girl. She got a sense from her of her medical history, etc., spoke to her and her parents, and then, of course, told them that please have the slides sent over to me, but immediately after that sent me a message again, and I quote, just spoke to your cousin and her husband. It is, as I suspected, a case of an endometrium overstimulated by estrogen, as she is a case of polycystic ovarian disease. There's nothing to panic about. Hormonal treatment should solve the problem. Now, for a lot of doctors here, this may seem par for the course, but for parents who possibly look at the devastation that this can cause to a 35-year-old child, when the legend in pathology comes in and gives this reassurance, it means the world. And that is when you transcend, and that is where I say brilliant doctors, doctors who are gifted by God, transcend that line between humanity and, in a sense, replicating God. Reading the many tributes that have poured in, one particularly struck me, and I think I heard that name here, and that was from a colleague of hers, Dr. Sumit Gujral, which so beautifully summed up to me what Anita was all about as a professional. And I would quote from Dr. Gujral here. Doctors across India waited for her reports because her judgment brought clarity where there was confusion. She was a pathologist who thought like a surgeon, which made her reports unique. They weren't just observations, but decisions that shaped surgeries, treatments, and lives. Unquote. Another stirring one that I came across, and this was from a student of hers, from a Dr. Ameya Kulkarni, who wrote on Facebook. And all of us have been students, and we know in different professions how absolutely boring and literally taxing it is to sit through lectures. So this is what a Dr. Ameya Kulkarni writes on Facebook. The year was 2005. A bunch of us studying in our second year of MBBS were roped in the pathology department of my alma mater, Krishna Vishwa Vidyapith, as volunteers for the state pathology conference being held in the college. While running endless errands in the conference, we were specifically told by our professor, Dr. Sujata Kanetkar, to attend a lecture by Dr. Anita Borges. We went in skeptically, expecting to nod off after a while, and how true that is of most lectures. Boy, were we wrong. The lecture hall was packed, no standing room even. Dr. Anita took the mic, and for the next 90-odd minutes, she spoke. She spoke with perfect diction, the voice and tone modulation on point. The words flowed. The passion came to the fore. It wasn't just a lecture. It was a performance. A legend in her prime doing what she loved and dazzling the audience. The clarity of thought, awe-inspiring. I don't think I have ever felt like that about a didactic lecture before or since. That afternoon 20 years back, she showed me what mastery over a subject looks like, what public speaking means, and how didactic lectures can be. My tributes to a fantastic teacher and an endearing human being." Unquote. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what genius is all about. I think I'm a great cricket buff, and maybe many of you here are. I think we have seen Sachin Tendulkar, many of us, in his prime. And when he used to bat, it was as if God was expressing himself through that bat. And I think in Anita, I saw that genius. And genius is always endowed by God. It can't be made, it can't be created. It falls to a very few. It falls to a very chosen few. And I think Anita was one of them. Born to Dr. Ernest Borges, one of India's finest and leading cancer surgeons at the Tata Memorial Hospital, I'm told she initially wanted to follow in his footsteps as a surgeon, but her father encouraged her to take up pathology, and then she went on to train in leading institutions like Sloan Kettering and at London. And what is amazing for me is that when as a nation we look at the brain drain that our country undergoes year after year and for decades, for people of this vintage and of this caliber and of this excellence to give up positions in the most leading hospitals of the world and to come back and make sure that they work for the common man of India, that they work so that people in our country are protected and live longer. I think that, for me, determines greatness. And I think she did her best in every assignment that she held to strengthen cancer infrastructure in this country. Again, I am no medical professional, but I know from my interactions with her at the Center for Oncopathology that she had pioneered many, many practices like tissue diagnosis, frozen sections, crossing systems, and immunohistochemistry, which became cornerstones of oncopathology in India. Her philosophy, as all of you know, was simple but transformative. Connect pathology with clinical practice. Her reports were valued because they precisely went beyond theory and into the realm of reality and enabled surgeons and oncologists to face the difficult decisions and address them in the operating rooms. As I stand before you, and all of us know that in life, and I have particularly held this to be really true, in life the only certainty is death. We all have to leave, but it is what we do with our time on planet Earth that defines us and contributes to our legacy. Anita was a legend who, apart from her own incredible genius, mentored and inspired innumerable medical professions in this field. As I said earlier, this kind of genius is given by God to only very few, His chosen ones. She definitely was one such. Again, in recognition of the fact that she was the chosen one, she also passed away, doing what she loved most, teaching. It is an exit which God gives to only those whom He treasures. And as was stated by the doctor who spoke before me and her student, she had started at the Center for Oncopathology an online training program, teaching program for pathologists who were doing their postgraduate studies. And this went on to become such a great hit. She also used to look at external quality assurance programs and hold them very, very dear. I therefore cannot think of a better way to bring the curtain down on such an illustrious career. I am sure her father, a legend in his own right, would be toasting his eldest daughter in the heavens for doing such beautiful justice to his legacy. While we will all miss her dearly, we will today pledge to honor her by carrying forward the torch she ignited of excellence, selfless service, and of imparting knowledge with humility. I met Anita last on 14th of August at my own father's prayer ceremony, little realizing that this was to be the final goodbye. And yet, as I always say, legends don't die. They live and breathe through the ecosystem that they create, and so will Anita. I will end with this beautiful quote. Some people leave this world, but never leave our hearts. It's not just their absence we mourn, but their silence where their voice used to be, the comfort of their hugs, and the light they brought into our lives. Some losses echo forever. Anita is one such. Thank you.
Dr. Nirika Borges, excuse me, Dr. Anita Borges' niece, would like to pay tribute to our favorite aunt.
Many of you knew my aunt, Anita Borges, as a master clinician educator, a caring and compassionate colleague and friend. As you've heard today, she was simply known to us as RB. My earliest memories of B are of her reassuring presence at our granny's house, a sort of shield who would keep us safe no matter what lay beyond the walls of Granny's garden. As children, we looked up to her quiet strength and were frequently embraced by her warm affection, her love of music, and her ability to speak with us on every topic as we explored the world. As an adult, I grew to appreciate and love the gifts she gave us, modeling curiosity, embracing her own intelligence, holding her space as a professional woman, and becoming regarded as a foremost expert in an erstwhile male-dominated field. And of course, the greatest gift that B gave us is with us in this auditorium today, our Uncle Natarajan. They were ready and willing to stand in for any of our parents, always supportive of every endeavor and also our harebrained ideas, including the time that we borrowed some plants from our granny's garden and sold them back to our ever-willing B. On a professional note, through B's example, I learned to love books, value curiosity, embrace the quest for knowledge, and recognize the importance of developing expertise and sharing it with the future generations of physicians, and most importantly, our patients. Losing B has left a huge hole in our family and in our hearts. We are learning how to continue without her, but she has left us with 78 years of anecdotes, lessons, warm memories, and love to carry us through this time. We love you more than words can express, B. I'd like to end with some words from Ralph Waldo Emerson that I think really quantify and express what B was, her essence, how she lived, and how I think she would like to be remembered. He wrote, "To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eric, for inviting me here. It's a huge honor. I'm representing the Indian Cancer Society. Most of us who have gathered here knows ma'am through her Oncopathology Association. I'm going to throw some little bit light upon her association with the Indian Cancer Society. So we gather here today with a heavy heart, yet with profound gratitude, to celebrate the life and legacy of an extraordinary woman, Dr. Anita Borges, our Vice Chairman, beloved trustee at the Indian Cancer Society. The Queen of Histopathology, as she was fondly known, daughter of eminent Dr. Ernest Borges, inherited not merely a legacy of medicine, but a calling to serve. As we all heard through the other speakers, beyond her brilliance, Dr. Borges is always loved for being warm, generous, and a humble person. Here at the Indian Cancer Society, she was more than vice chairperson. As a trustee in charge of our cancer screening vertical, she was very much deeply involved. Many of us here remember her, how she used to walk in on Wednesdays to ICS office in Parel, and she made it a point to meet with each of the screening team members. And these meetings were not just a formality, but she actually made it a point to listen to the issues, to listen to every member what it was to do cancer screening in the community. She was there to question, but also to guide us. Her last meeting was no different. She gave us rich insights. She initiated research projects. Being a non-profit organization, there are many activities that the ICS does, or many other NGOs they indulge into. She was the one who always emphasized that all the projects need to be evaluated. She always taught us looking beyond what is already achieved. So I agree with her niece when she said, you know, if there was a photo or if she knew that we are going to talk about her or about a project which she led, she would say, oh, please stop it. We all heard about the online teaching programs that she started for the pathologists. Another brilliant, innovative activity that she started, a project that she started with the ICS, was medical education program, which was kind of pioneered by her, and this was for the general practitioners in the country. And I'm very privileged to say, like every word which the other speakers said is true. She was supposed to go to Nasik yesterday. We were supposed to travel together. Unfortunately, she could not come. So the last message that I have from her in my phone is, are we going to Nasik? So we couldn't drop it, and I'm very happy to say we conducted this program yesterday, and each member pledged that we will take this forward, and we will keep the flag high. She was the editor-in-chief of the Indian Journal of Cancer. She also very much proudly talked about cancer registries. In fact, she was supposed to conduct donor meetings. Being non-profits, you all will understand what the importance of donors is, right? So she wanted to convince, and she wanted to kind of tell this philosophy to the donors that it is not one-year donation which is going to help in cancer. She wanted to tell this philosophy to them, as she always told us. We must question why. Why are we doing what we are doing? And this is what she wanted to explain. She was actively involved in planning ICS's 75th celebration, 75th year celebration, which happens to be next year. With a very heavy heart, I'm saying that we visited this very place last month with her as a possible venue for the conference. It's extremely painful to realize that she will not be around. In her memory, let us enhance our efforts. Let us honor her by finishing what she set in motion, by maintaining the highest standard which she always demanded. I have very unique memories which I would like to tell you all. One of which I'm sure all of you know is that she stayed away from social media, which was so unique. Another wise decision that reflected that true impact lies in work and not in noise. I will surely miss her SMS. She would say, I'm just a phone call away. You can call me anytime. I wish that was true even now. May her soul rest in peace. May we find in her life the inspiration to move forward, stronger, kinder, and more determined. I would end by saying she was popularly, and this is quote Dr. Kurkure, she was popularly known by AB in the oncology circle. And ABs are giants, whether it is Bollywood or whether it is our dear AB. Thank you very much.
Growing up and growing old with his sister.
Good evening, friends. Anita, AB, as you have heard many of her colleagues call her, and she used to call me Eebs, EB. And I would like to share with you that she was a very, very special person, as all of you know. And what really made her a very special person was the rare qualities of a very sharp intellect, a curious mind, intellectual honesty, and when you combine these attributes with compassion, caring, and integrity, you create a very precious gem. A rough, uncut diamond, she was born. And along life's journey, she polished this uncut diamond to become a Kohinoor, the most precious stone that we have. This is precisely why today we are gathered here to celebrate her journey through life, and along the way, we celebrate those little stations that she stopped at, sometimes for a very short time, sometimes for longer. And all she did at these stations was polish her diamond, which emanated light and encouraged other people to become diamonds themselves. I stand before you with a myriad emotions crowding into my mind, and a deep sadness, because the loss has been quite extreme. But with this sadness, I feel a sense of gratitude. And this gratitude is to the Lord Almighty for her presence on this planet and in our lives, which I am sure she has enriched in more ways than one. Let me now share with you how Anita's extraordinary persona wove her magic on me and my siblings. Being her only younger brother, she was very protective of me. I was always under, and these are her words, chhatra chaya. And khabardar if anybody messed with me. I will forever miss this umbrella which made me feel safe and secure. And I always knew if I got into trouble, there was somebody there who would help me out. At a very young age, Anita was a superb storyteller. She honed her skills at storytelling by conjuring up imaginary characters, epitomized by a little imp that she called Tingalam Devil. I will never forget those stories of Tingalam Devil and all his misadventures and shenanigans which she invented, and she used to tell us all about them. And as little children, we were absolutely amazed and astounded by her stories. She also invented a couple, an elderly couple called Fat Grandma and Thin Grandpa. Fat Grandma was a gossip, a very bustling abomination of a grandmother, and Thin Grandpa was acerbic, quiet, and tended to be quite nasty at times. We lapped up all these stories, and I will never forget the wide-eyed amazement which we listened to them, and sometimes she got us to laugh hysterically about their antics. Now these stories and these encouraged her to polish her raconteur style, and then later on in life she would regale audiences with stories about literature, and as I used to tell her, the range of her stories took her from bacteria to Bach, from mitochondria to Mozart, and from carcinoma to climate change. This was the breadth of her ability to talk and talk to audiences of any age and of every calling. She was a voracious reader with very eclectic tastes, and she encouraged us, her siblings, to read and read extensively and widely. She also did something very special for me, and I'm sure my other siblings also profited from that. She gave me a love for crossword puzzles. It has become an obsession with me, and every day when I do the Times crossword, I think very fondly of AB. I was a very terrible student in school. Miserable is the word. And she and my dear mother, God rest her soul too, were instrumental for pulling me out from the depths of the abyss of mathematics, of which I knew nothing. And to her amazement, shock, and delight, I must add, she couldn't believe that at the final exams, my graduation exams in school, which in those days was the SSE, I got an almost near perfect score. She said, "Eames, I can't believe this." I said, it's all your training. And it really was, okay? As luck would have it, I decided to become a doctor and secured admission to the same medical college where she was already enrolled. You can imagine my fears entering a medical college where I had a genius sister ahead of me, okay? And 4 years my senior, I was petrified. But to her eternal credit, she supported me with that chhatra chaya of hers and encouraged me in every possible way, for which, needless to say, I am eternally grateful. This brother-sister, senior-junior relationship matured into a deep, caring bond, respectful of each other's expertise, and became more meaningful with time. It was really a very special relationship that A.B. and Eames enjoyed, and I am a better person for that relationship. After the passing of our dear parents, Anita assumed the role of the matriarch of the family. And this role she donned with grace, dignity, and aplomb. My siblings, Nina, Rita, and Renee, were the beneficiaries of her loving care. A patient listener with a sympathetic ear, she resolved sibling disputes with the wisdom of Solomon and the justice of Themis. We were all very satisfied once the matriarch pronounced ex cathedra that this was going to be the way it should be resolved. That was initially, and afterwards we had major fights, but that's not the point. The extraordinary relationship that she had with her lifelong companion, Dr. Natarajan, was something to behold. It was legendary in its dimensions, and each was a perfect foil to the other. They were full of the joie de vivre, which was infectious and on display at all times. Our family has wonderful memories of many magical journeys with joy, happiness, going to exotic locations, and having a whale of a time. As we bid adieu to the Empress of Oncopathology, the champion of the underdog, the Saraswati of young, aspiring pathologists, this is what Anita would have said. The stone at my head will say that I'm gone. The stone at my head will say that I'm gone, that all my seeds have been sown, that all my seeds have been sown. But I'll leave with you my memory in silence to live on. I will leave with you my memory in silence to live on, and hope you'll remember even if I forget, and hope you will remember even if I forget, and sing me no sad songs and shed me no tears. This is exactly what AB would have wanted, and I raise a toast to that message. My friends, may I request all of you to stand for a moment of silent thanksgiving for the good fortune of having walked beside Anita Maria Borges, my beloved sister, and a sapiens extraordinaire. May I please request you to stand. Of her nieces and nephews, I say a very big thank you to each and every one of you who have accompanied AB on her journey through life. God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
She was bold and brilliant and beautiful, and our batty old aunt, her words, not mine. And we will miss her infectious smile, her spellbinding storytelling, her ability to burst into song and break into dance at any given opportunity, her showing up as Santa Claus, whether it was Christmas or not, with bingles and bangles and gifts galore for all of us, her words of wisdom, her unwavering support, and her ginormous, generous heart. Our lives will never be the same, but we know that we now have a giant, genius, goddess of a guardian angel watching over all of us, and that her legacy will live on forever through her family, her friends, her students, her colleagues, her work, and in all the wonderful ways she made our world a brighter place. Thank you to the Cathedral Choir, and thank you to Dr. Muneem, Mr. Sharma, and Dr. Dhamankar for sharing your beautiful memories of Dr. Anita Borges, RB. We'd also like to thank Mr. Satish Sahani, Kunal and Khatha Joint, and the entire staff here at the Nehru Center for helping us organize today's event. Thank you to all of you for being here. And most of all, thank you, B, for being you. Thank you very much.